The Internet of Things is rapidly moving beyond hypotheticals and into real-world applications, and it is changing the way we live and work. That's the subject of today's edition of Inside AB. I'm Jeremy Lawrence, and I'm joined here by Bernd Debusmann. Bernd, you wrote a feature this week about IoT technology. We were both down at a conference. You were the one taking notes, so I'll ask you what exactly it is and what the experts mean by it becoming a reality.
Well, essentially what it is kind of a series of interconnected devices. Now, this could be anything. It could even be, for example, home appliances that are all connected to each other and exchanging data constantly. Now, what they mean by that it's moving past the hype and past the buzzword of IoT is that now it's starting to be implemented. For example, in factories, for example, in airplane factories, you could, if everything is connected, for example, you can track and trace certain parts. You can kind of figure out which parts are going to work in the assembly line, which won't, to which aircraft they should go, etc. So it's kind of improving efficiency already in a lot of, particularly in industry, but also in a lot of different other sectors.
Yeah, if you think about the thousands and thousands of parts involved in an aircraft and at every stage of the maintenance plan.
Of course, and in theory, if they're all connected, I mean, it would make putting the aircraft together much simpler and faster. Okay.
There's lots more examples, which we'll get to. So here in the UAE, the government's working towards implementing what they say will be the world's most advanced IoT system. How is that going to change people's lives?
Well, the UAE is interesting because there's actually an official government IoT strategy to kind of put this all in place. But in terms of concrete examples of how it's working, they're already working on a system called the Hassantuk system, which is essentially the alarm systems of 150,000 buildings throughout the UAE, office buildings, apartments. Eventually they'll extend it to villas that are all connected to a central civil defense system. So within milliseconds of an abnormality, the system picks up on that. Civil defense can quickly deduce whether it's an actual fire or whether it's perhaps a false alarm, for example, and it'll increase response times. So that's kind of one way in which IoT is changing people's lives for the better already now. Jihad Tayyara, who's a senior VP at DO, he said it's not really about the technology, it's about what it does for people at the end of the day and makes them happier.
Yeah, I remember Jihad talking about IoT being used to make people happier, which could be a buzzword, but then he mentioned about the advances they could have in terms of making your DWA bills smaller because you're tracking and tracing your energy use. He also talked, didn't he, about the street lights not being automatically switched on. They're on sensors that can tell who's moving up and down the streets and come on accordingly. So all these changes could reduce bills and I guess lead to what that would lead to.
For the government as well. I mean, for example, the street lights, I think that's a good example.
Yeah. Okay, of course, the big one, and this was a big subject of debate at that conference, was the security concerns over this technology, because obviously if you're linking everything together, you've just got thousands and thousands of weak spots in the technology chain.
Well, that's what the experts say. Essentially, if more things are connected, then there's more of what they call a threat surface. For example, there's more ways for a cyber attacker or perhaps a malicious state entity even to get into the system through a different variety of ways. And once you're there, you could create all sorts of problems. If everything is connected, things could spread very quickly. So essentially what the world will need to do is figure out how to secure from end to end every entry point of data that's available in these huge IoT systems, which will be a challenge, but it's something that people are already working on at the moment.
Yeah, of course. I thought it was really interesting when they talked about the implications on a macro level for the economy that IoT technology is going to have. And forgive me, I forget the name, the PwC spokesman who was there, he talked about the levels of improvements that we will get from implementing the technology.
Yeah, Dr. Anil Khurana from PwC, he compared it even to the first time electricity was implemented on a large scale in industry. For example, if there's a 1% increase in productivity in industry, that's a $15 trillion a year implication. And with IoT, he says it'll be more like 9–10%. So I mean, the financial implications of this are are staggeringly big.
150 trillion a year to the world economy.
And I think that's even a number that's really hard to understand. I mean, what else has made such a change in a long time?
But then if you think about what he's saying about the level of uses, if you say it's going to be like implementing electricity, I mean, that changes everything, doesn't it?
And I think it will change everything. I mean, it's still very much in its infancy, even if it's already starting to be implemented. But this is something that's going to ramp up every year quite a bit as things are moving forward quite quickly.
Okay. Well, this is going to be fascinating. We're going to return to this subject, I'm sure, time and time again. But for now, Bernd, thank you very much for your insights. That's IoT and how it's going to change the world. Subject we will come back to time and time again, as I said. You've been watching Inside AB. We are live every day at 10 a.m. every weekday. Please do comment, share, and subscribe to our channels. We'll see you next time.